They're coming off turn 4. The 34 had trouble, had to get out of the throttle, and everybody behind him just didn't get slowed up enough. That's a typical Darlington wreck. That's probably not the last time we're going to see it. It's just so hard to see in front of you here because you're turning at such an angle, and the closing rate is so high. When somebody has to lift off the throttle, you're going so fast in that part of the racetrack, these guys just couldn't get slowed up.
25 of Chase Elliott got caught up in it. Cole Witt into the inside wall here. Safer barriers on both the inside and outside walls here at Darlington. The modern technology of the safer barriers, even though the track's 65 years old.
So he got in the outside wall, then he got into the 35 and chasing the 25 car. He just could not get slowed up. There's nothing he could do.
Now, Rick, we're talking about, throwback Darlington. One thing about this weekend that's been a throwback is this tire that Goodyear has brought has been soft, grippy tire, and this track has aged since.
Ryan Newman. And that was in the middle of turns 3 and 4, completely sideways, and then he goes all the way down to the apron, and around he goes. The caution came out.
You can see there is certainly not going to be contact, just getting loose. That's just what happens. And probably the car, you're trying to power up as much as you can right there, and just steps out. Yeah, slow. It's what the low downforce package is kind of designed to do. You don't have that pushing down and helping you with that stability that you really want.
44 laps of green, and you saw Menard in the 27 had the right Saint.
Yeah, not exactly the caution flag at this time that Carl Edwards and Casey Kane were looking for as they made green flag pit stops. They were hoping that they would cycle through a green flag run before a caution may happen.
So the pits are open, gentlemen?
Everybody will come down. Yep. Pardon? Everybody will be coming down this way.
Two ends are. Let's see what happens, Mike Bliss here. Gets down in the corner. Looks like, gosh, that's certainly looking like a tire went down there or something. Because it wouldn't turn. You see that happen a lot. The car just take off.
Yeah, we talk about how narrow Darlington is. Well, this is what happens when people have issues. It collects other people because there's just nowhere to go, especially at the speeds they're running around this 1.3 mile.
22 on the bottom of the 48. 48 comes down on the 22. Basically spun himself out.
We'll ride along with Denny Hamlin to see the view that he had of this spin.
Yeah, you see Joey Logano outside, just looking for real estate. He has those fresh tires.
Just the 88, one behind me.
Jimmy turns down across really the nose of the 22. Probably had no idea the 22. While he knew he was back there, he probably didn't know exactly where he was at. He's kind of in that blind spot right off the left rear corner. And Jimmy really, to your point, Jeff, comes down on the 22.
You're fine. Caution's out.
And that's one thing that we don't think about Darlington running 3 wide. It's just something you've never heard of. But now that this bottom groove works so well, the 22 did nothing wrong. Joey Logano was in his position. He never changed lanes. I just don't think Jimmy Johnson realized he was there or even expected that he would be there. But
well, maybe this is where it came from. The 3 checks up. The 6 has to get checked up, and Danica Patrick has kind of nowhere to go. Gets into the left side of the 6 of Trevor Bayne, perhaps cutting one of those left side tires.
So some damage also to the right side of the 10 for Danica Patrick.
Again, Danica held her line. Trevor Bayne, I think he turned left trying to avoid the 3 car.
And then after that contact, the left side tires go down on the Trevor Bayne car. Like you said, Jeff, trying to get the pit road with a flat left rear tire. This track is slick. Take air out of one of the tires, it's impossible.
In turns 3 and 4, goes to accelerate. Car just gets away from her. She has to chase it up the racetrack and ends up with heavy contact.
Yeah, that's a backup car. Remember, Jeff, she also had an accident qualifying, so that's the second car of the weekend for Danica. This is a tough place, Rick. The lady in black doesn't care if you're running first or running 15th. And this is how easily it can happen. You see, she's just trying to get the power down, just trying to accelerate off the corner. One wiggle, but Darlington, you're already so close. So hard, has a lot of wheel in it, Jeff. While he's trying to get the power down, it just spins around on him.
Yeah, that's a bad situation to be underneath another car, digging really hard. You have all the air being taken off the rear spoiler. On top of that, there was a little bit of contact between the 2 cars, but that doesn't help anything either. So just 2 cars racing hard on a restart. That's just a racing accident. I mean, we have accidents in racing because people are trying to pass each other and go, and a lot of times everybody wants to point the finger and say he did this, he did that. Sometimes wrecks just happen when you have good close racing.
And we've talked earlier about the limit on tires. With only 4 laps on the tires right there, I expect all the leaders to stay out. While they would probably love to have tires, I don't think you can afford to put them on with this many laps still to go.
And just after that 17 got into the wall, the 98 and the 7 got into each other.
And that was a big hit. Those guys got together really hard.
TJ Bell in the 98 and the 7 driven by Alex Bowman. So a lot of damage to both cars. Mike. Already sideways and way down the track was Kyle Busch.
I wonder if we talked about it all night long, how tight things are getting into turn 1. And
they were sideways.
Like that's what happened.
Yep. Yeah, you see the 25 is already up into the wall. The left front tire is turning to the right. Even as a young driver, he understands he needs to stay up in the wall. He doesn't want to come back across traffic. And that's the disappointing part of this is why is Chase Elliott in this 25 car here at Darlington?
Bottom of the racetrack. Comes up the racetrack. The 5 of Casey Kane had some momentum coming. Just pulled up in front of him. Casey ran in the back of him.
A lot of right rear damage to the 6. Greg Biffle almost sliding up. Could have been 2 Roush Fenway cars involved in that one.
Now the right rear quarter panel was shoved into the right rear tire. Now the right rear tire goes down and Trevor spins.
It looked as though he was trying to get back around and potentially get onto pit road, but when the caution comes out, they close pit road. So he had to make his way all the way around the racetrack.
It's got loose leaving the corner, looked like. Maybe trying to make a move on Jimmy Johnson, and again, a little bit like Danica leaving the corner right there, trying to lay the throttle down. Back end just came around on him.
Menard was behind him, and into the wall he put him.
Those are the type of accidents you see later in the race. That's just frustration. There's really no good reason for that. You know, Paul Menard looks like he's looking underneath him. The 55 comes down to the bottom of the racetrack. The 27, I know he has momentum, Jeff, but he has pedals in the race car. You know, he chooses to get into the back of the 55, maybe not meaning to spin him out, but at least push him, try to carry some momentum down the front stretch. It was too much. The 55 couldn't handle it.
Is this a big break for the 18 of Kyle Busch?
Well, he's definitely lost his track position, but he did stay on the lead lap. Now he's back on sequence with the leaders, but it doesn't look like all the leaders are going to pit.
Third, and the 78 got in the back of him.
The 78 just got in there a little bit too deep. The 41 lifted a little bit early. You could see the brake rotors glowing on the 78. He was on the brakes trying to avoid him, but he just misjudged how the 41 was going to slow down.
Kyle Larson's vantage point. He also had to check up hard onto the brakes to avoid running into the back of Martin Truex Jr. Carl Edwards in the RS-19 taking the low line to try to clear everyone, but a smoke screen put out by that 41 of Kurt Busch. Dave? Southern 500.
He was underneath the 48, kind of in the middle of the racetrack, and it just gets loose. We've seen that a bunch today, being loose underneath another car.
We've talked about these drivers being in these race cars for over 4 hours. Well, guess what? The pit crews have been standing there all day long. They've had a lot of pit stops, more than we normally see. They've got to be